I had a son that I never saw. He was born cocaine positive. They said when he was born, they could put him in a shoebox. When I saw his mother, she said he was adopted and didn't know where he was. Then I had another son. I never knew he was my son until he was 16. By the time he was 18, he was in prison for a double homicide. He's doing 100 years right now. Had I not been involved in crack, those two lives would have been different. That's what I have to live with. My mother never used a drug in her life. My dad was very successful. I lived in a middle class family, upper middle class. I was the only child. I had what I wanted. I was spoiled. I got good grades in school. I was going to college for law enforcement. I was actually going for law enforcement. I had got a scholarship to play football. When the football season was over, everything disappeared. It was like all the tutors went to the basketball team now. I still needed the help. I still needed the direction. I still needed the guidance. I still hadn't even knew what a syllabus was. And I started seeing my friends that didn't do anything. They got new cars. They don't even work a job. This looks more attractive to me than me sitting here struggling with this school. We call it hustling. There was days I could leave out of my house with $10 and come home with $500 or $600 in a night. Today, everybody knows what crack cocaine does. But when I used, we didn't know the outcome. We didn't know that people was gonna lose their houses. We didn't know people was gonna lose their cars. We didn't know the effects that it was gonna do to our kids. It was a rich man's high. That was something everybody wanted to do because they knew wealthy people did it. The people I hung out with and I dealt with still went to school, still worked every day, still raised kids. We used it on a Friday and a Saturday. Then we started using it every day. And then stuff started getting neglected. And when I looked up, it was January of 1989, and I was in a drug house and got shot in the back for somebody else's mess. At that time, I had just had my first daughter. I had a job. I was a union painter. I gave it all up and grabbed this lighter, stem, and the crack. My mother had sent me 3 bus tickets to come home. I never got on any bus. Her and her best friend had to come physically drive to Chicago and pick me up. Everything I owned fit in a grocery bag. And when I came back home, my dad saw me and he was happy. And I remember that. October 30th, 2003, my dad passed away. I stopped getting high for the 2 days before the funeral, but the night after the funeral, it was back on again. See, my life revolved around crack and the activity to get crack for so long, I didn't know anything else. I ended up going to prison 4 times. Actually, 5 times. I only had one child that came to see me, and that was my daughter. She was the one that saw everything, saw me at my lowest point. What really hurt the most was when she told me I don't do visits no more. Me and my mom had that relationship, like, closer than a best friend. And I go to prison for 10 months, and I called and could never get in touch with my mother. And my mother's best friend, I called her, and she said, "Baby, I've been trying to find your mom for 3 days now, and I don't know where she is." And when she found my mom, the hospital was getting ready to send my mom to a mental ward. I felt so helpless. That was still not enough for me to stop using drugs, though. 30 days before I was leaving, I realized that I was about to go home and I didn't have any rules anymore. And I prayed to God, what is going to keep me clean? What is going to keep me out of prison? And I never forget, I heard the one word, and the one word was fellowship. That's when I really discovered you are who you hang around with. I could be the old Josh or be a man of God. And I chose to be a man of God. That's when I gave my life back to the Lord and things started changing. There's no such thing as paying your debt to society. Society doesn't see you fit for anything. Until you give up on yourself, you deserve a chance. That was the unique thing about job foundations, that didn't matter. You still got a shot. My best friend, he is like, man, I'm gonna talk to the boss. I'm gonna get you on. I'm gonna get you a job. And this was like my third week from out of prison. Unfortunately, I didn't have my license at that time. I went into court. I talked to the supervisor, and he was like, well, you have $560 worth of fines here. And I knew I didn't have $560. So I really sat there and looked at the man, and I told him, I'm really trying to change my life. I said, there's a position available for me, and if I could just get my license, I can be hired and have a job. And the man looked at me in my eyes, and he was like, Mr. Wilson, I'm gonna dismiss all these charges, but get your license so you won't have to never do this again. And I had to pay $100 a month for a year for non-owner's insurance. Didn't even have a car and still had to pay insurance. And I was like, well, wow, how am I gonna do this? I don't even have a job yet. So for about 2 months, I donated plasma just to pay my insurance. Lo and behold, one day, I had $10 left to my name. I got the phone call, and I gave the person that I was with my last $10 and told him to take me out to Plymouth. From then on, everything just started really taking off. God is in this place, you know. The whole company itself, all the way to the owner, would help mentor you, you know, give you ideas, show you how to be a man, show you how to be productive. Really made me feel like I was part of something. They created a trust level in me, and that gave me confidence within myself. I feel like I'm a part of life now, you know. I can do what everybody else does now. I still live in North Minneapolis today. I see a person that reminds me of me every single day. And so every day I have that choice because all I have is today. Yesterday is gone, tomorrow's not promised. I mean, it was bad, but I have something to share to other people. I have something to share to the people who think they can't change, to the people who believe that this is the way my life is and they can't see nothing else. Just because I've been to prison before, just because I was addicted to drugs, don't mean I can't change or a person can't change. Through the grace of God, when I cleaned my life up and got sober, I talked to my son for the first time in 2011. The first time I physically saw him, I picked him up from Faribault Prison. And now he lives with me. The only thing I can do is go visit my son that's in prison and show my other son how to be a man. My son never knew me as an addict. And I gave him my life story, and he looked at me, he said, man, I do not see anything of what you're talking about. I cannot believe that that used to be you. That for me was living proof that a man can change.